with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Professor of Biology at the University of Sussex, Dave Goulson, author of Silent Earth, Averting the Insect Apocalypse. Because you had nothing else to worry about. Meanwhile, rating agencies say the Build Back Better bill will not add inflationary pressure. Joe Manchin desperately calling his office now. Senate votes on a $7.8 trillion defense budget today. That's the low end. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's polling in the toilet. Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, says December 15th is debt limit day. Meanwhile, the FDA to authorize Pfizer boosters for all adults in the country. At the same time, U.S. to up vaccine production to 1 billion doses by mid-2022. And this is $1 billion a year so that we can provide vaccine for poor nations.
They could have just waived IP, but oh well.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration to hold massive drilling leases auction this week. And PFAS, remember those? Those are the forever chemicals? Well, good news. If you are looking to ingest more toxic stuff inside your body, they turn out to be even more toxic than previously thought.
That's bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unless you like to take toxins.
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that John Oliver segment on this got people talking about it.
Senate confirms Google critic and antitruster Jonathan Cantor to the DOJ, and the Rittenhouse jury is still deliberating. Day 2. All this and more on today's program. Joining me, as always, Emma Vigeland. Hello, Emma.
Chiming in the headline portion of the program.
Uh-huh.
Soon you'll never be able to get a word out without me having some sort of little comment.
Little snide little comment there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was snide, but
I mean, I don't know.
happy hump day,
Yep, there you go. That's like your signature now.
I guess. I mean, I kind of fell into it. I wish it was more clever, but
Yeah, well, maybe we get a lot of time. Come up with another term for Wednesdays. The fulcrum. No, it doesn't really
All
quite
right.
work. The PFAS, for those of you who have been listening to this program for years, you first heard about PFAS probably 6 or 7 years ago when in one of my then biannual, semi-annual, twice a year. Anybody? Matt? Literary?
Biannual is twice a year.
Right. Okay. So biannual jaunt to Vegas for the Tort Lawyer Conference. Many interviews about PFAS, these forever chemicals. The short story about them is that they don't break down. So when a company, in one instance it was DuPont, that was using something called C8 to produce nonstick pans. And look, you can do what you want. I will tell you that after the conversations I had with attorneys over the years, I don't use nonstick pans.
No, don't do what you want. Don't use nonstick pans. Sorry. I mean, seriously. Try not to if you can't. Like if if you're buying new pans, don't buy nonstick pans.
And if you have older nonstick pans, do not use those.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, these chemicals don't break down. So when a DuPont dumps them into a river, they just travel. I mean, just imagine if you had a quarter from the year, I don't know, 1800. And that quarter was never taken out of circulation. Every time it is handed to somebody, some of the little quarter rubs off on their fingers and it never dissipates. That's basically what PFAS are. They go into the water, then a fish eats them, and then something else eats the fish, or maybe it goes, it makes its way onto, washes up on the shore, and it's in the ground. If you were to test your blood now, I don't care who you are who's hearing me, you would have some of these chemicals in your system right now.
Pretty much everybody does.
They do not dissipate.
Yes.
And so they aggregate. And
that's why, using cast iron or using non-stick or not using stuff with PFAS in it is important to just start doing that right now, because we all have some portion of these harmful chemicals in this. It's good. You don't want it to accumulate.
Right. But the other problem is, I mean, that's just a more direct method in which to get it into. But when you eat something, it really doesn't matter, vegetable or, animal protein, the chances of you getting some PFAS, at least, are there as well. So what we need to do is not produce more of these things. But the FDA has found that they're more toxic than they were before. So, happy Wednesday as we go on to, in a moment to talk about the potential insect apocalypse, why that's important and why that, sadly, wouldn't be limited just to insects. This came out today, very short time ago. And I don't really pay a lot of attention to what rating agencies say, particularly because I'm old enough to remember 2008. But nevertheless, the major rating agencies, these are the ones that are basically economists and assess, the value of different investments and the impact of potential legislation. William Foster, Vice President and Senior Credit Officer at Moody's Investors Service, told Reuters that the two pieces of legislation, that is the infrastructure bill that was just passed and the Build Back Better bill, quote, should not have any real material impact on inflation. Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, which operates independently from the parent company's rating business, said the bills do not add to inflation pressures. Charles Seville, senior director and America's Sovereign co-head at Fitch Ratings, said the two pieces of legislation will neither boost nor quell inflation much in the short run. Why is this important? Because inflation has been Joe Manchin's latest fig leaf du jour as to why he can't yet support the Build Back Better. It was going to be add to the deficit, but then nobody cared, particularly since the first infrastructure bill added more to the deficit probably than this one. And then they were going to wait for the CBO scores, which are supposedly coming tomorrow or Friday. But there's all indications that the CBO scores are going to be within the realm of margin of error as to it having an actual impact on the deficit. Obviously, if you've listened to the show, you know that my assessment of the CBO scores are rather irrelevant. My assessment in terms of where they even going to land. But what's important here from a political standpoint, if you're Joe Manchin, you've basically been saying, I got to get home. I can't hang out with you today because my kid's birthday party's happening. And then someone just showed up and said, oh, no, Joe, actually, your kid's birthday's next week. Oh, is that what it was? Well, actually, you know what? My
My apartment's flooded.
My apartment is flooded.
Wait, we were just there, and like everything seems fine.
Exactly. Here's Joe Manchin before the ratings agency came out with this stuff, and you know, old Joe when he's not riding around in his whatever it is, his
Maserati SUV. Maserati SUV.
Well, the thing about that is the gas prices kill you.
Yeah, 15 mile per gallon.
And of course, there's nothing like taking your Maserati SUV out for a jaunt to go pick up some milk, and then when you eat, it's like it's sticker shock all around. Here, watch this.
You were just back home for a week. Do your voters want this bill, this big, massive bill right now?
I think my voters in West Virginia, but I don't speak for the whole country, my voters a lot differently, but they're very much concerned. Inflation has hit them extremely hard. They have to drive. Their mileage for driving to work is...
I'm sorry. Is there, do I have a problem with hearing? Did he ask about, do your constituents want the bill? The bill that would expand Medicare, that would provide them free vision, hearing, that would lower drug costs, the one that would provide help in terms of elder care, and paid and parental leave.
Universal pre-K.
Universal pre-K. Child care. Do they want that? Well, let me talk about my trip in my Maserati for a second. All right, pull it back. Just replay it from the beginning, because I want to make sure I heard what the guy said right.
You were just back home for a week. Do your voters want this bill, this big, massive bill right now?
I think my voters in West Virginia, but I don't speak for the whole country, my voters a lot differently, but they're very much concerned. Inflation has hit them extremely hard. They have to drive. Their mileage for driving to work is quite onerous on them. And the cost, they see it every day. Every day they go up and fill up, it's $1.25 more a gallon. So they're in $3.29, $3.39. Gallon of milk is now around $4 in many places, and it's taking a toll. And I hear it when I go to the grocery store, or if I go to the gas station. They say, "Are you as mad as I am?" And I says, "Absolutely."
You know what would alleviate some of those financial hardships brought on by inflation, which I'm not convinced are actual real things. He must have watched that CNN segment on milk. That's where he got that from. Like a child tax credit, for example, which could offset the temporary rise in gas prices or milk prices, especially when now we're seeing from these rating agencies not going to have an effect on inflation.
To be fair,
Build Back Better.
Joe's mad and he's at the gas station. He's also not eligible for that child tax credit. So that's why he would be mad.
Yeah.
Because I get 60 miles a gallon on this Maserati.
This would be a good moment for Joe Biden to say, "Oh, okay, we've addressed all your concerns. The inflation thing is addressed. Let's pass this thing.
Let's pass this thing." Because if we know that this is not going to contribute to inflation, then the way you could help your constituents is by putting money in their pockets or taking care of expenses for them.
He's just treading water because he doesn't want...
He's running out of excuses.
Well, he's running out of excuses, but he also doesn't want to say, I'm going to pick this apart until I can't pick it apart anymore. Like Igor Bobich, who I believe is a reporter for HuffPost, tweeted out that about an hour ago that he is still a no on including paid leave in the reconciliation bill. And Gillibrand's essentially still trying to negotiate with him on this. But he's trying to pick away whatever he can as the clock ticks on the excuses that he can use. The apartment's not flooded, your kid's birthday's next week, and yeah, you don't have a funeral to go to, Joe. I think the person you said died is actually alive.
I'm afraid paid leave might create inflationary pressures on leave. No, unpaid. On staying at home. That could get super expensive. He's floundering around, and it's going to be interesting to see how they hammer him on this because we got to get this done. And I also like the fact that what is his name? Manu Ranju? Is that?
Oh yeah, the framing.
The massive bill. Meanwhile, tomorrow, incidentally, which is today, they're going to be voting on a $780 billion 1 year defense authorization. It is $25 billion more than the Pentagon asked for.
An increase of $37 billion.
An increase of $37 billion. But more than the people whose budget it is asked for.
You wanted one cherry on top? We're giving you some sprinkles just because we love you.
Dad, can I have $30 to buy a pair of whatever it is, socks? You know what, Mila? Here's 50. Here's 50. And I should tell you that if we were to apply the measure in which we count these things, we're talking about an $8 trillion bill that they're voting on today. Of course, we're 10 years out. They don't have to do it 10 years out. We know it's going to grow exponentially each year. So 8 trillion is probably like an undersell. But
poor Mila she has to be the Pentagon in this situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm
teenagers, right?
Yeah, tell me about it. Folks, got a couple of sponsors today. One is my favorite, Sunset Lake Seder. Sunset Lake. Oh, whoa, it's
the sign.
Boom. SunsetLakeCBD.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST for 20% off. I talk about the tinctures a lot because I use it almost on a daily basis, or actually in the evening. It is a huge boon to my ability to sleep and to fall asleep and to stay asleep. I haven't even tried the melatonin one. But
I love the melatonin one.
People are into that one.
I need the double dose of stuff to get me to bed.
But also the smokables, the pre-rolls, the keef, all of it, just top notch. The gummies, the fudge, the coffee. These are all great gifts for people coming into the holidays, Hanukkah gifts, Christmas gifts. Just end of year gifts, however, birthdays, everything. I don't know. But they're a great company. They have great agricultural practices. They use integrated pest management instead of pesticides. We're going to talk to someone right now who's going to tell us about the value of that anyways. They also use regenerative farming practices, take care of the soil, organic fertilizer. They're also great movement partners. They have donated thousands of dollars to things like supporting striking union workers, supporting Afghan refugees, supporting organizations in their community outside of Burlington, Vermont. Just a great company, great business practices as well. $15 minimum wage, mostly employee-owned company. Check it out, sunsetlakecbd.com. They have been great sponsors of this program, but also it's just a great outfit with a great product. You can use the code LEFTISBEST. They chose it, fans of the show, LEFTISBEST, for 20% off. Check it out now. And also, one thing that I've been trying to do as of late is pare down and have stuff in my apartment that I like a lot, even if it's a little bit like, I'm no longer like, building my own sort of like furniture out of 2 pieces of furniture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to do that either. Like, ask if anybody's just giving away old furniture to stock my place. I want to invest in something nice.
And the thing is that a good piece of furniture will last, and it makes you feel better about being home, frankly. Joybird has a selection of customizable furniture and modern home decor that lets you bring your unique style into your space. Plus, get ready for Joybird's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. You can choose over 18,000 customized options or browse curated collections to find the perfect piece for your style. With Joybird's protection plan, your upholstery and leather pieces will always look good as new. Joybird is committed to creating quality furniture and a more sustainable future. Pieces are made using responsibly sourced materials free of harmful chemicals. Through partnerships with groups like One Tree Planted, Joybird is helping conservation efforts. With Joybird, you get quality craftsmanship, stain and scratch resistant fabrics, and lifetime limited warranty. Joybird stands by its quality. They have a 90-day return policy. If it's not everything you hope for, you send it back. Folks, great opportunity for you to get 30% off your purchase at Joybird right now. You've been to this store over here, right?
I've walked by it. I haven't.
Oh, you got to go in and
yet.
check it out.
Yeah.
The furniture is fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen ads for it before. They were even the sponsor, and I love the design.
Create a space that brings you joy with Joybird. Visit joybird.com/majority. Get 35%. What? 35% off your purchase. I didn't know about that. 35% off at joybird.com/majority. That's a good deal. Check it out, folks. Joybird.com/majority. All right. Want to welcome to the program Professor of Biology at the University of Sussex, author of Silent Earth, Averting the Insect Apocalypse, Dave Goulson. Do we have him? Dave, thanks for joining us. I'm here with Emma Vigeland.
Hi, Sam. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you again for being here. So let's start with this. I mean, I find this, I was sort of shocked, and you write about partly about why I was shocked about the diminishment of insects, and you gave examples. We'll get to that to a moment, but I want to just start with the idea of why should we care about insects?
Good question, and of course most people don't really. A lot of people loathe insects, but they're really, really important. I mean, I love them because they're beautiful, fascinating creatures. But even if you put that to one side, we need them. The world wouldn't really work without insects. They're biocontrol agents. They recycle dead bodies and cowpats and dead trees and all sorts of other things. They keep the soil healthy. They pollinate nearly 90% of all the plants in the world, and 3/4 of the crops we grow depend upon insect pollinators. So, we wouldn't have everything from apples and cherries and strawberries to tomatoes, and even coffee and chocolate depend on insect pollinators. So life would be pretty awful without them.
You outline a vision of the world, I guess it was in 2080, of what it would look like without insects, or with I shouldn't say without insects, without the sort of the insects that we value. Walk us through that a little bit, and let's just talk about what would be around when it comes to insects.
Yeah. So I tried to imagine putting myself in the shoes of my eldest son is 20 now, born on the millennium, just about, and I was imagining what he will encounter in his life, what it will be like. So I put myself in his shoes, aged 80, looking back at most of the 21st century, and I tried to imagine what's likely to happen in the next 60 years. And actually, unless we address these big environmental issues like the disappearance of insects, life's going to be pretty tough, I think. So in terms of insects,
and we should say, let me just stop you here too for 1 second. I mean, we're talking even distinct of climate change at this point. I mean, obviously, the climate change is going to really impact the insect population, but we're talking about even if there were no climate change per se, and 60 years out, climate could also be, the change could be devastating. But we're just talking about the question of insects at this moment.
Yeah, sure. Although, I mean, these things are all intertwined. One of the big drivers of insect declines is beginning to be climate change. And there are many other major environmental issues that all of which kind of interlock. And I think the solutions to most of them are common. But anyway, in terms of the insects themselves, there's a kind of irony that the ones we like, the pretty butterflies, the bumblebees that pollinate our apples and so on, seem to be the ones that are declining, whereas the kind of tough, adaptable pest-like insects, the houseflies, the cockroaches, the mosquitoes, they're pretty adaptable, and they exist in huge populations, so they can cope with most of the things we've thrown at them so far. So they'll still be with us and will probably long outlast us. But the insects we really can't do without, and that will be very sad to see go, are the ones that are disappearing.
And why? What is it? Just that we don't like insects that are that adaptable or they're coming? I mean, why is it? Why is that?
Well, partly it's just chance. Houseflies, for example, they benefit from all the rotting organic waste that we produce. So the arrival of humans on the planet has led to houseflies being much more common than they ever would have been. And because there are countless billions of them, if you spray them with pesticides, a few of them are resistant, and they quickly evolve resistance as a population. So they're quite hard to control, and they will thrive so long as we produce refuse, which seems to be likely to continue into the future for quite some time. So they're just a few lucky insects that basically thrive around human habitation. And those are the ones that will certainly not be disappearing anytime soon. Whereas things like bees, which are rather slow breeding creatures, they're much more sensitive to the environment and to the way it's changing. They're the ones, sadly, that are disappearing.
All right. Well, just to go back to your son in the year 2080, like what's his life looking like without the insects?
Well, I'm imagining him. That chapter starts with him sitting in the garden in the middle of the night, defending the vegetable patch, and the fruit that he would have had to hand pollinate, because without pollinators, the only solution if you want to grow crops will be to pollinate them ourselves. And there are already, sadly, parts of the world where this is happening. Famously, in parts of southwest China, they now hand pollinate their apple and pear orchards. So he's living in a world where life is tough. It's difficult to get enough food. People are very likely going to starve if we don't address these insect decline issues. And where you have to, defend the food you have against people that would otherwise come and steal. It's all very apocalyptic, but it sounds a bit. I know some people will think it's ridiculous to imagine that civilization might crumble, but unless we address this whole raft of interrelated environmental issues, including the demise of insects, then I think there is every likelihood that life for our children is going to be really hard. And, we would do anything for our children, wouldn't we, apart from apparently leave them a healthy planet.
Can you give us a sense of how rapidly the insect population has declined over the past few decades? Because it seems precipitous and something that needs to be noted. I was staggered to see how quickly things are shifting.
One of the most dramatic pieces of evidence is a study from Germany, which found a 76% drop in 26 years. That's probably at the top end. There've been a lot of other studies scattered around the world. For example, in the UK, we know that butterfly populations have roughly halved since 1976, when I was a kid. So that's
stunning. I mean, that's that's stunning. The idea that let's just say that there's some flexibility between 50% and 3/4 of the insect population has diminished over the course of the past 30 or 40 or 50 years. Is nuts.
It's pretty scary, isn't it? I mean, this has happened, in our lifetimes, on our watch. Just to give you a North American example, the monarch butterfly has decreased in Eastern North America by about 80% since 1990. So, actually pretty recent times. The Californian population of the monarch is down 99.9% in 20 years. So yeah, this is dramatic, and if it continues, then that it really will be catastrophic for life on Earth.
Before we get into the sort of what's causing this, you talk about in the book about why we don't really notice this, and you brought up the bugs on the windshield, and I remember it just suddenly dawned on me, like, yeah, there's a lot less of of bugs on my car in the summer than when I was, 30 years ago when I was, driving. Will you talk about that dynamic as to why we're not in tune to it?
Well, I guess the reality is that most of us don't spend much time kind of interacting with insects, don't pay much attention to them. Many of us live in cities. For most people, insects just not on their radar at all. And it is interesting that almost the only thing that most people have noticed is the clean windshields. Although even there, most people haven't actually thought about it. And it's only when you point it out to them, they, just like you two, they say, oh, yeah, you're right, I can remember that. But because it's been a kind of gradual thing, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened, just a few bees left, a few butterflies left each year. Then it's crept up on us. And I think most people are blithely unaware of this entire crisis.
I mean, even the butterfly example. I used to remember as a kid trying to find butterflies or seeing them more regularly, and I thought it was maybe just my childlike innocence escaping me, but I can't remember the last time I've seen one, honestly.
What really worries me, I guess, aside from the kind of practical difficulties that will arise if we lose most of our insects, is just this, for me, things like butterflies are a kind of gorgeous creatures. And the thought that maybe my grandchildren might grow up in a world where they never get to see them, I find really sad. And I think that's really, that kind of thing is what motivates me more than anything else.
Well, what can you quantify, obviously, like, the quality of life may be worse and less childlike for Emma because she doesn't see butterflies anymore. But can we quantify what the implications are of a diminishment by 50%, even if we could say, of the insect population over the past 50 years? Like, what do we see in our daily lives that we wouldn't have seen had we had the same amount of insects?
It's only just beginning to kick in terms of actual impacts on humans, other than just the observing less insects buzzing around. We're seeing signs now from many countries around the world of crop yields, the crops that are dependent on insect pollination becoming more variable when there are years with fewer insects. There aren't enough to go around. So we're kind of reaching the critical point where food yields are going to significantly fall in the next few decades unless we do something about this issue. So that's going to be the thing that strikes home first. And if I could point to a particular crop, the very first thing that will happen in North America is the almond crop is going to struggle. At present, there's this astonishing situation where almost every honeybee hive in North America is taken to Northern California to pollinate the almonds there, which are grown in a vast area, a kind of monoculture of orchards. And there are just enough honeybees at the moment to pollinate them all. But if the honeybee population falls by just a few percent, there won't be enough, and the almond crop will fall, which of course isn't a big deal. We can all do with a few less almonds. But if that continues, obviously, and starts to affect more and more crops, then with the human population growing, then that's really serious.
Is there in other words, we're hitting sort of, I guess, critical mass, as it were, or critical lack of mass in terms of the insect population, where I guess we had a little latitude in terms of our ability to grow food and to pollinate things, because I think most people think bees are the only pollinators. And that's, I found that's not the case, A. And B, where are we with the bee population relative to where we are with the broader insect population?
So it depends which bees you're talking about. There are 20,000 species of bee in the world. So people tend to think of the honeybee as the bee. And I think if they think about it at all, a lot of people think that the honeybee pollinates everything. But actually, that's a long way from the truth. Pollination is delivered by a whole mix of different bee species. And helped out by butterflies and moths and beetles and flies and a whole bunch, literally thousands of other species of insect. Actually, the honeybee population globally is not doing too badly because it's essentially a domesticated animal, and beekeepers put in a lot of effort to keeping honeybee populations up. But that is just one domesticated species of bee. The wild ones, sadly, seem to be the ones that are really struggling. And we've seen, for example, in the UK, we've lost three species of bumblebee have gone extinct. The US relatively recently lost Franklin's bumblebee, which used to live in California and Oregon, and is now globally extinct. That's the end for Franklin's bumblebee, rather sadly. So one by one, these things are disappearing.
Let's talk about the causes of these insect declines. What are, I mean, earlier this week we had someone on to talk about Monsanto and their herbicides, but it's there's also, I mean, pesticides. I would imagine are that's what they're built for. But are they having a greater impact than one would have anticipated with just using pesticides?
So globally, probably still the biggest driver of insect declines is habitat loss. We're still seeing, huge areas of natural vegetation, of tropical forests and so on cleared every year. And those are ecosystems that are really rich in insects. But much of that land is being cleared for farming, and modern intensive farming is incredibly hostile to insect life, unfortunately. And of course, the main reason for that is because it depends very heavily on a whole barrage of pesticide applications every year. I know the figures for the UK. Our fields here are typically treated about 17 times a year with pesticides. So very little, unfortunately, insecticides are designed to kill insects, and no one's really invented one that just kills the bad insects and doesn't harm the good ones, unfortunately. So this kind of intensive monoculture farming system we've come up with, while it produces a lot of food, I would argue that it's not really sustainable because it's wiping out biodiversity and also doing terrible damage to soils and contributing to climate change and so on. I should say,
go ahead.
Sorry, Sam, just one final sentence. There are also a whole bunch of other drivers of insect declines: invasive species, spread of non-native diseases, climate change is starting to kick in, light pollution is a really interesting one, and so on.
Well, wait, so let's go through some of those. I mean, invasive species, is that just simply a function of of us introducing species into areas where they shouldn't be? And why is that happening? Is that, I mean, because I feel like some of that is deliberate and sort of unintended consequences.
Yeah, there are a whole raft of examples, some of them deliberate. So, for example, European bumblebees were released in South America just about 20 years ago now. And they became established in the wild. They're spreading through South America. And sadly, they seem to be carrying European bee diseases with them, which the native South American bumblebees have no resistance to. So there's a really unfortunate parallel with what happened when European people colonized the Americas in terms of bringing with them diseases. Sometimes it's completely accidental. So, for example, in Europe now, we have a wave of giant hornets spreading from, they came from Asia, but they were accidentally brought in a shipping container to Bordeaux in France, and are now spreading across Europe. And they love to eat bees, sadly. It's their favorite food. So that was
hornets that they call them. Is that what they are? Those, I've
those
been
massive hornets.
Yeah, these aren't those hornets.
They're not the really massive ones, which are also from Asia. These are quite big wasps, essentially. Nothing at all terrifying from a human perspective. And there've been some really silly newspaper headlines exaggerating that, the idea that these kind of giant things are a threat to human life, but they are a threat to insect life, sadly. So we unfortunately, because we move stuff around the world all the time, we've accidentally and sometimes deliberately spread insect species way beyond their native ranges, often with unfortunate consequences.
And you said light pollution as well?
Yeah, this is one that most people haven't really thought about. And of course, we all know that insects, particularly moths, are attracted to lights at night. And that certainly doesn't do them any good. They fly round and round and round, bashing into it, and are easy, if they don't just wear themselves out, they're easy prey for bats or spiders or whatever. But there are other consequences that are more serious perhaps than that, particularly relating to, so insects, many of them time their life cycle through the year using the day length as a cue as to when it's time, for example, to emerge from hibernation in the spring. But if they're living somewhere where there's light pollution at night, they think the day is longer than it actually is. And so they emerge from hibernation too early in the middle of winter, potentially, and then, of course, would die. So light pollution, unfortunately, seems to be having really quite harmful effects, particularly obviously in urban areas.
So, all right. So let's talk about what we can do here in terms of, one of the things that I sort of appreciate about this is that this is, as opposed to, let's say, climate change, which I think is necessarily going to involve, it can only really, in many respects, involve policy on a governmental level. There's stuff that individuals actually can do to forestall the insect apocalypse, which I think you wrote, if we were to disappear as a human, as a species, the planet would be fine. But when insects do, things are going to be bad.
Yeah, I should say that that's a quote from E.O. Wilson, not my original, but I think it's true. The good news is that, we can all get involved, and it's not too late for most insects. They haven't gone extinct, the majority of them. And unlike northern white rhinos or pandas, they breed really quickly if you just provide them with the right conditions. So they could recover in no time at all. And we can all get involved in doing something, which I think is very empowering in a world where often, as you say, you feel helpless. And the reason we can all get involved is because insects are everywhere. They're around us, they're in our backyards, they're in our city parks. And so little things that we do, like planting some bee-friendly flowers, planting some native wildflowers, not using pesticide sprays in our gardens. Even if you just got a window box or a roof terrace, if you grow some of the right flowers, then the bees and other pollinators, they'll sniff them out, and you're doing something. It may be quite a small thing, but it's a step in the right direction. And if we could get enough people doing this kind of stuff, then we could invite insects and other wildlife in to live in our urban areas. And that would also be a great way for our children to grow up in a world where they can engage with nature, where they can see bumblebees and butterflies, which I think would be brilliant.
Do the insects who would die off otherwise, as opposed to the ones that are more adaptable, the mosquitoes, the flies, the cockroaches, are there ways to promote the insects that we like to diminish the ones that we don't?
Well, so there are two different questions, really. The things we might do to reduce the populations of the ones we don't like are very different to the things we might do to encourage the good insects, if you like. So, for example, the pollinators, which are so important, providing them with more nectar and more pollen, lots more flowers, and not poisoning them is key. If we can also provide them with quiet places to nest, then that's even better. And so there's a whole raft of insects that we can encourage that way. Also, simple things like not mowing your lawn so often if you have a lawn, and letting it grow a bit taller saves petrol, saves sweat. And there's a whole raft of little insects that will happily thrive there, including the caterpillars of moths and grasshoppers and crickets and all sorts of things. So you can literally have thousands of amazing insects living in your backyard. And that's no exaggeration. There's a really interesting study from a slightly eccentric lady who lived in Leicester, which is a city in northern England, who spent 35 years trying to catalogue every species of animal and plant she could find in a little urban garden. And her grand total was 2,673 different species, which I think is just amazing. Sort of number you might associate with a patch of rainforest or something, but this was just a little urban garden in a city. So we can all, support lots of life if we've just got even a little patch of land.
Are there any, I don't know, intergovernmental agencies or non-governmental agencies? I mean, is there any other entity that's working on this type of thing? I mean, I feel like we've seen at least a societal awareness of the diminishing number of bees over the past, I don't know, decade or so, I guess, that people have been, become aware of it and are trying to, I guess there's some measures that are being taken to promote bees on some level, but is there something that is going on that is, I guess, analogous to the question of insects at large?
There is a really nice NGO, the Xerxes Society in North America, that's devoted to saving insects, essentially. So if you want to get involved and find out more, aside obviously from reading my new book, which has lots of ideas about how people can help insects, the Xerxes Society, that's what they do. So if you Google them, I'm sure you'll find them very easily online.
Well, Dave Goulson, professor of biology at the University of Sussex, author of Silent Earth, Averting the Insect Apocalypse. We'll put a link to Silent Earth on majority.fm. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks. We can be
insect apocalypse. Okay.
There you go. Just adding one more. It's like.
Do you feel existential anxiety? Well, so do we, and we want you to share in that.
Exactly. I feel like that's what we've been doing, like on a jag a little bit lately.
A jaunt, you might say.
A jaunt?
I don't know. You've said that a few times today. It was
jag
making me laugh.
Or jaunt?
Jaunt.
Did I say jaunt more than once today?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I said it once.
It's just like a great word, so I took notice.
No, there you go. Bradley, make a note. Book more optimistic guests, please.
Well, I mean, there was a note of optimism about what can personally be done towards the end there.
There is a sense that there's a lot that we can do in that just as individuals. I would imagine, like even if you're living in the city, maybe you put a plant out on your fire escape. I don't know. It's winter. Forget it. Forget it. Folks, maybe we give out plants. Yeah, I don't know. We got the alarms are going off now. That's just the alarm that we set for the oncoming apocalypse. Darn it. MajorityReportLive.com. What happens when you go there? Well, you buy tickets to the live Majority Report to celebrate January 16th. We're going to be doing that at January 16th. Stop the Steal. With the big live.
Right. That's what it was.
The big live. We're stopping the steal. Of course, we're going to Boston. We're going to surround David Pakman's studio.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take back the panels.
Yep.
We're going to take back the panels.
And we're going to puncture them with an American flag.
Look, I'm just going to do a rally out in front of Pakman's studios or house or wherever he is. And
we should probably figure that out first.
If things get crazy, they get crazy. It has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Nothing to do with it at all.
And if you start, chanting "hang X person,"
let's not get carried away.
Let's.
Emma crossed the line.
I did. I didn't say the person.
Majority Report Live. We're going to announce who our guests are in the coming weeks. You're going to want to get your tickets now. Trust me on this one. Trust me. Also, don't forget, it's your support that makes the show possible. Go to jointhemajorityreport.com, become a member, support the free show, get the fun half delivered right to your door every day. Also, AM Quickie, speaking of deliveries, amquickie.com, email in your box every morning giving you some of the top stories and hidden stories
I've been really loving the
Jack
Quickie.
and Corey do a great job. They do a great job. amquickie.com, totally free. For now, get in early. Believe me. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leckian media universe?
Yeah, well, if you want to look at one way we can stop the insect apocalypse, check out our Patreon member, patreon.com/leftreckoning. With Aaron Kowalski, we talk about different ways of land use, and I think greenhouses are a way to protect places from pesticides that you might use on certain plants. But anyway, tonight, William Shockey of Africa is a Country to talk about Frederick Willem de Klerk dying and how we should remember the last president of apartheid in South Africa. And also Jacob from the Valley Report on to talk about the union stuff in Alabama and an overview of Alabama as a state entirely. So 2 guests tonight, Left Reckoning, 8 Eastern tonight.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males...
Psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? What? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100. Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them.
Things I do for the bigger game plan.
By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. It is the Majority Report fun half. Oh, my God. Too much fun. The number is 646-257.
Jesus Christ.
646-257-3920 is the number. I know there's a lot of people out there right now. They are buying their tickets for the big live.
Yeah, the big live on January 6th.
There we go. Let's go to the phones right off the bat. First one in the
queue.
The queue. Calling from a 702 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam, it's Bro Flamingo from Las Vegas.
Bro Flamingo from Las Vegas. Long time no talk to.
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on, chat? Man, there's so much to talk about. The first thing I just want to say, though, Sam, I completely agree with you on two things. One, the media is hyping up, the governor's race. As soon as I saw Terry McAuliffe on the ticket, I was like, oh, he's probably toast. You get what I'm saying? And, there's this big, don't get me wrong, the Democrats have the impressive ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, but McAuliffe is just he was weak. For me, I thought he was already toast, but I think people are putting too much stock in that. And the second thing I kind of want to talk about is because you were talking about Merrick Garland, Sam, and I've been thinking about this because I used to talk about this all the time, but it's Bannon finally got indicted. You get what I'm saying? Finally got indicted.
Yeah.
And there's so many other people out there. And I always get pushed back on the left about this. There comes a point to it where it's because listen, when I say we got to punish these people, I always get, we have to dismantle the carceral state. We have to, I get all that. I'm with you on that. But there's politics and there's also politics. And even with this Kyle Rittenhouse thing, of course, on principle, he fell for the bait and the propaganda, but he also needs to be punished because at the end of the day, if he's not punished, right, there's going to be 5 Kyle Rittenhouses at my next DSA event, trying to play Mr. Hero, or you get what I'm saying? It empowers these elements that are against us.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm sorry, go ahead, Emma.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I feel like it's kind of a I haven't heard any of these arguments that are being made ostensibly by people on the left about how, this trial is a sham or whatever. We've had some IMs write in and say there are some leftists arguing about how Rittenhouse is being unfairly attacked. I mean, to me, you can hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time. You can say we need criminal justice reform, and at the same time, we should not let this person slide for murdering 2 people. It's kind of like but you exist in society argument. Oh, you're arguing for criminal justice reform, but you want accountability in this one particular case? Yes. You can hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time, and it's disingenuous to say that's hypocritical.
Also, and the last thing, I'm sorry, it's the last thing I'll jump, and I want you guys to comment on this because, by the way, I get this from leftists to the left of me who are you shouldn't say that because you're going to turn into the red fashion, blah, blah. But also, I know it's on the right, too. I mean, I'm sorry, to the right of me, I'm a leftist, but the liberals or whatever, they're very hesitant for punishment. And for me, that's almost you're just scared to punish white supremacy. On the left of me, it's almost like you guys are just scared to punish these guys in general. At the end of the day, my most cynical take is look, if Joe Biden didn't want to do anything, right, Sam, and and I'm if Joe Biden didn't want to do anything, I get it. That's ideological position. He wants to water whatever. But just as a matter of political efficacy, okay, it's okay, listen. These guys have been, my political enemies have been served up on a platter for me at this riot. I'm talking about Mark Meadows. I'm talking about all these guys. Served up on a platter, no talk of punishment. If you punish these guys, you galvanize everybody. Every single body on the left. You oxygenate the left. But we let these trash dummies just walk around for whatever reason. And it empowers the Kyle Rittenhouses, the Bannons. It's all the go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I think your point stands. I mean, look, I think there is, I have not followed the Rittenhouse trial at all, frankly. I mean, there's no doubt that when someone is engaged in killing multiple people, that they should be put on trial, to establish what their culpability is. Murder is a crime that you adjudicate. I don't think anybody disputes the fact that he killed 2 people and wounded a third by firing at him. I don't think, there are certain facts that are just in and of itself, we want society to discourage. We don't want to encourage people to take automatic weapons down to decide to, I don't know, police against protests. I mean, it's just like there's no context in which I think we want to encourage that behavior, regardless of whether a jury finds that he was, met the legal requirements for murder. I mean, give me a break. We cannot have a society where protests are met and wherever skateboarders are met with automatic weapons to make sure that they don't, I don't know what, this guy's out there protecting bodegas or something from, give me a break.
Protect property.
I mean, give me a break.
And the last.
But I also think, I just want to say this. What Bannon did, or what, in narrowly speaking, we need Congress to have the ability to compel testimony, or at least to compel showing up. You want to plead the fifth? You have an opportunity to do that. But we need the ability of Congress to provide oversight for the people. We don't have that. We've got a real problem. And so it's a different, that's in my mind, a different animal than a criminal case that is, a function of people, adjudicating, whether or not a murder took place with an obvious killing. And so, I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, Sam, I completely agree with you. And also, but to your point, though, Sam, even before we get to the point of Congress being able to compel Bannon to come testify, which is very important, by the way. I've seen leftists dismiss that as like a show ridiculous. But
well, whatever.
I'm sorry. What I was going to say was, even before that, he had been scamming people. The border wall scam. He hasn't been punished. You got to understand. The last thing is that these people, they don't like taxes. They don't like leftism. They do anything to avoid punishment, and they also don't like empowerment, whether it be like female empowerment or black empowerment. These are their weaknesses. You got to punish them. If you can't do the other things, you got to punish them. Leftist best guys, love you all. Take care.
Appreciate the call.
Thanks so much.
Drewish. Hey, everyone. Big fan of the show. I just became a member last night. Yesterday, you were I'll give you one of these. Yesterday, you were discussing lead paint and dust. I just moved out of a house where I had to sign a waiver about lead paint when I moved in. Eventually moved out after the owners sold the place. Alternately, the housing and rental market is so bad in Northern California that after a year of looking and being 40 days past my 60-day notice, I finally just bought a fifth-wheel trailer and moved into an RV park. At least they don't care about my pets. Keep up the good work. Special occasion sheets. Was that a hint at an LA live show yesterday?
No. No. I mean, you said when we come to LA, so eventually we hope to.
Assure you that someday we will do a live show in LA.
Wow.
Well, let me back off that. You made me realize, wait, that's a big promise. Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Someday I will go to LA. How about that? Marco Spaghetti. Sam, why do you hesitate to call yourself a socialist? You seem to support most, if not all, DSA candidates. Social democracy is a part of social tradition after all. First off, I hesitate to call myself anything because I don't find it helpful. I think most socialists, actual socialists, would take issue with my politics because they're maybe a little incrementalist for some, or I don't. It's just not. It's not important to me to what I am. I don't, and I think I can do. I'm more helpful the way that I. Without putting a label on my politics.
Yeah, we A/B tested you currently with Maoist Sam Seder, and this has performed way better.
I mean, I think I am. I think ultimately I am not a socialist because I don't think that we want to that we really can, in many respects, do away with all private property, or at least, or maybe that's not necessarily socialist. I don't even want to get into all this because it's just sort of useless. But I think there needs to be a certain amount of tension in society between competing ideologies. And I am for, but I also, if somebody dug me up from the grave in 60 years, 80 years, let's say 80 years. I mean, I could make it to like 105. I was playing 104, to be honest, or 115 rather. But if somebody was to dig me up in 80 years and go, we just wanted you to know, society's socialist, I'd be like, okay, I'm good with that. I mean, yeah,
I think it's iffy when you're basically a media person or commentator to take these labels on anyway. Like if James Lindsay called me a communist, I'd say sure. But like calling myself a communist, like to me, it's like there's people that are organizing under these labels, like doing actual organizing work.
Right.
And I'm commenting and observing. I'm an observer compared to that.
I think it just unnecessarily narrows you. I mean, and I think we're trying to appeal to a broad audience with these ideas. So there's no need to box oneself in. Honestly.
Well, I would say it doesn't necessarily narrow you, as in you, the IMer. I mean, for me,
yes, but
I don't see the efficacy.
Sam's in a different position than the IMer.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking you, me.
Yeah, like
in
our profession and your profession, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I also think that I think I think if I was to sort of get down to the the end of to completely lay out every single one of my beliefs, I think an actual socialist would take issue with me calling myself a socialist, which is fine. So it's irrelevant to me.
Also, sometimes I feel like it can be a crutch to that comes at the expense of analyzing policies one by one, and I don't know.
Zero Sum Sam. Whoa, this is a lot. This is a lot of IM here for you on this Zero Sum. Hello, MR crew. I want to ask you to do a report on the Greek current government. It's the most corrupt and incompetent government I ever saw in my 40 years. Massive amounts of corruption, suppression of the media, and huge bribes to them, police brutality, COVID incompetence, and 3 ministers are known neo-fascists. American Greeks will be able to vote in our next election. Please inform them because they are targeted by our current regime with propaganda. Left is best. Thank you all. We should look into that. Stinky. Sam woke up this morning and said, F these top 3 buttons, respect. What are you talking about? This is 2. This shirt is always, there's something about the way this shirt hangs that people always make that comment. And it's not, I think it's just because it's like wrinkled right here. Maybe someday I'll iron it.
Just right when we go to Los Angeles.
When I'm in LA. Stupid Stu Peters. Love the conversation you had yesterday with the guys at This Is Revolution. Sam, looking forward to part 2. Thank you. Marco, folks, check that out at This Is Revolution, youtube.com/This Is Revolution.
Yeah, it's about right. If you search This Is Revolution, you'll find it.
I had a conversation with Jason and Pascal, and then Gene showed up. There you go. Mark O'Brien. Emma is my favorite. Then Matt. Then the other Matt. Then No Me Key. Then the camera. Sorry, Sam, you don't make it on the list. Love you. Chicken Shit Cedar. Hey, Sam, I have an idea for a CNN debate called the show called Meet Me in the Middle, and it would star Meghan McCain and Kristen Sinema. Obviously, this would have to wait until Sinema is no longer in the Senate. What do you think? All right, go for it. Cravatron. We're all part plastic trash monster now. Inflation has hit them hard. Try paying $5 a gallon in California. Well, this is the other thing that was disingenuous about Manchin. The increase in price for gasoline, I don't think, is a function of demand-driven inflation. I think it's in function of producers throttling the amount of petrol, not maybe, I mean, at least in part as a function of Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman trying to punish Joe Biden.
Read Ryan Graham and Ken Klippenstein's reporting in The Intercept on this very story. So
I mean, the implications for the consumer, it's the same, right? In terms of how much they got to pay out. But the reason why that's relevant is that it is not a function of people having too much money in their pocket so that they're driving more and the price of gas is up. I mean, Joe Manchin wouldn't say, if you have a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico that knocks out a couple refineries or knocks out a pipeline or whatever it is, the idea of Joe Manchin and the price of gas goes up, and the idea of Joe Manchin saying, well, gas is up, I don't think we should pass the child tax credit because it's going to be inflationary. I mean, it's just, that's the point. Don Inicio. Today is my 39th birthday. I want to hear that shofar. Left is best. There you go. Happy birthday.
Wow, what a demand.
Yeah.
You wanted to
I
hear
like
it
that,
and you
actually.
got it. I want to hear that shofar, right?
I like that.
Boom.
Not can I have a shofar.
You're entitled to the shofar.
Once you hit 38 and a half, that's the way your attitude can change.
Uh-huh.
It's you start to realize like I'm
Demanding
leaving
things.
the kid stuff behind, and I'm no longer wiffle waffling about stuff. I'm just gonna virtually demand it.
You see that as coming with age. I feel like women have to deal with that on a daily basis.
What's that? Demanding things?
Well, feeling intense guilt about demanding things because we're supposed to be nice all the time. I feel like impure when I'm not perfectly polite.
Well, all right. That's okay. Don't do that.
Yeah, just be polite then.
I mean, you could be polite.
No, I mean, but sometimes I don't ask for things like at the expense of being polite, or I tiptoe around.
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I'm not. I'm giving you a window into the female psychology. It might be helpful for everybody here.
Do you want the window open?
Yeah, I was gonna say you came in and you were like, "Can we turn the fan on?" I was like, "Sure."
Right, I know, but it builds up in me.
Tomorrow you're gonna be like, "I want the fan on."
Yeah. Hey, can you open the fucking window, Sam?
Whoa.
You're still asking, but you did have to swear.
Exactly.
Damn it. It's hard to unlearn.
Please open the fucking window. Jimmy Files. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. In addition to being the home of a famous white supremacist coup, the city's water supply is also famously infested with PFAS. A corporation dumps them into the water supply, and they would rather pay fines than stop. The government is seemingly fine with it. If you can afford a whole house reverse osmosis water filter, you can have safe drinking water. If you can't afford that, you're welcome to drink poison water. Can't understand how people aren't outside those CEO homes with pitchforks every day. I'm sure you can guess which community in Wilmington the issues affect disproportionately. But how can infrastructure be racist? Am I right? Disturbing, but great comment. Calling from the 612 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello? Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh,
Yes.
shit. No kidding. Okay.
Jesus.
Sorry for that.
Is this a prank phone call?
Calling from
I hope
Minneapolis.
this is a prank phone call.
No, it's not. No, it is not, actually. Surprisingly. Just have a manic dog just running around. Yes, anyway, yes. Alex, Minneapolis. How you doing, Sam?
Alec?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Alec from Minneapolis. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I know this is probably an overtreaded topic. I'm sure I think I've heard you talk about this on a couple occasions, but I'm having some issues, and I think this is a broader issue with younger leftists and their parents, boomer parents, and it has to do with what kind of media sources or how they consume media. And I was going to ask you this because you have an older generation. probably are a little more familiar with specifically kind of the older Gen X, boomer generations and how the social dynamics they grew up in and how they grew up and stuff.
I mean, anyway, I have a vague notion, my understanding.
And so anyway, I guess I was just wondering, I was asking this because I think my situation sort of
Well, ask me the question first. There's a lot of preface happening
yes,
here.
Yes, I'll get on with it. Yes. My parents are pretty left. I grew up in a left family, generally left. But my mom, she really is pretty left in most senses. She did work for Bernie. She's been involved with healthcare like I have, advocacy. But in terms of the media sources and what they read, I've tried to refer them to, online leftist websites, Democracy Now!, other, world socialist site, kind of just a wide range, Intercept. And, it's just like, it just doesn't.
How old are your parents and what do they read?
They're in their late 60s.
Okay, they're late 60s. Now you understand that's I'm not in my late 60s. I just want to make that clear.
No. I wasn't grouping you, and I know that there's a big difference between people that grew up in the 60s and the 50s, for sure.
Yeah, I know. I didn't grow up in the 60s either. I just want to make that clear. I mean, I was
70s,
born in the 60s.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I was born in the 60s, but I did not grow up in the 60s.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like 4 in 5 in 1970. I just want to make make that clear for everybody, just in case anybody.
It doesn't make it sound any younger.
Well, kind of grown up in the
well, that's all right. Well, so what do they read? What do these old people read?
Well, they honestly cable news like most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, CNN, MSNBC, and there's good parts of those. There's good things of those.
Here's what you
sources, but like
I got an answer for you right now. You asking me how do you get them to read some of these online publications so that they get a little bit more? Okay, I'll tell you. This is easy. You have them watch.
I wish it was. Anyway,
no, it's easy. You have them watch this show. All right? Because this is what you say to mom and dad. This guy is an MSNBC contributor. He is swimming. He's drowning in Comcast money.
And Google money.
He's drowning in Comcast money. And watch him. And then you've now outsourced the job to get them to read these other outfits because we're talking about these outfits. Do you see how this works?
It would be helpful for this specific situation if we were still on Peacock.
Well, all right, whatever.
They don't know that. They don't know. But they're not going to look at a streaming app. You're pretty much a screenwriter for Chris Hayes or something,
Well, no, a screenwriter. That would be
not screenwriter. Editorial person for Chris Hayes. They'll love that. They'll eat that up.
Well, just say I'm a contributor on that show. Like I go on that show. I just haven't done it recently because it's been because of COVID. I don't have a babysitter.
Mm-hmm. Rob? Okay.
Yeah, tell them that there.
That sounds like a good. Okay. All right. I did do that. Try that once, but
I filled in for Hayes. I filled in for Hayes. I guess it was last August. Was it the past August or a year from August?
I have no idea.
I don't remember.
Well, I mean, I don't think since I've been on the show.
Oh no, I covered for him. A year ago, August. So just tell them that, and then they come over, and then you just send me a list of the things you want them to read, and I'll take care of it. All right?
I will.
Well, you got to remind me. Because I have a very fading memory because I'm so old.
Okay. I'll have a fading memory too for other reasons, but yes, I'll get on that. Okay.
All right, hang in there. Talk to you later. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate
Take
you
care
guys.
of that dog. Feed your dog. That is not a euphemism.
What would that be?
Yeah, that's.
What would it be a euphemism for? I have no idea, but it sounded like one. Speaking of Peacock, my former colleague, Mehdi Hassan, Mehdi Hassan, sorry.
I thought you were about to pull up the Nicole Wallace clip. Anyway.
Oh, well, I guess we could do that one too. But this was pretty stunning. Mehdi's very good at questioning people, and it's I don't know why people go on to a show. I mean, why I wouldn't go on to a show if I had anything I didn't want to say, because he just sort of like zeroes in exactly on the thing that will make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's very good at that. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. You don't remember him. He's the guy from Georgia.
Resistance hero.
Who, Donald Trump unleashed a world of hate on this guy.
And he recorded the call, right?
Well, not just the actual call from Trump, which is true, but like there were death threats to this guy's family.
Yeah.
That were in many ways midwifed by Donald Trump. And so you probably think, well, Raffensperger, this is a guy.
He's got a bone to pick with Trump.
He's got a bone to pick with Trump. And,
they're enemies for life. Yeah.
Yeah, they're enemies for life. You would really think that if he was like, would I vote for Donald Trump? Well, let's watch.
You've said for a year that you voted for Donald Trump in 2020. So if he, as looks likely, is the Republican candidate again in 2024, will you vote for him again?
That is so far out in the future. There's so many people that are going to throw their hat in the ring. And I think we'll have a robust debate. And I believe that we'll have someone that will stand on character and have the moral compass to lead this nation. And if we don't, then we'll probably be out in the wilderness at least till 2028. So I'm looking forward, and hopefully we have someone that does, that really can build the party.
With respect,
because even if you look at,
with respect, Secretary Raffensperger, we're out of time, and I have to ask the question again. You've done a masterful job of avoiding a lot of my questions, so I'm going to ask it again. If Donald Trump is the candidate, you told me at the start of the interview you're a Republican, you're a conservative, are you going to vote for this guy?
That's so far in the future. Haven't even thought about that. I got to get reelected next year.
You're not ruling it out, which is astonishing to me. This is a guy who incited violence against you and your family, and you're considering maybe voting for him. You're not saying tonight, no way am I ever voting for that guy.
Was that a question or was that a statement? I didn't really understand. But what I'd say is...
We're out of time, but I'll ask it one more time. Can you say emphatically tonight that you will not vote in 2024 for the man who you say threatened you, incited threats against you?
I believe in 2024, we'll have a person that can grow the party, because we didn't have 50% of the popular vote for a long period of time. We need to grow our party. We need to figure out how to do that so we have an attractive message that actually embraces people, expands the base, and we can make sure that we win with 50+1% of the people, plus win the Electoral College.
High on a hill was a lonely goat herd, lay, hoodle-lay, hoodle-lay.
There's a couple of different ways you can interpret this, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is, here's a guy who just doesn't want to alienate members of his party, and so he's just doing the, not paying attention to it.
Quote, I got to get reelected.
I got to get reelected. I mean, that could be it. The other is that, he doesn't want to, he's nervous about, having people, attack him again with like online hate and this and that. Now, I don't want to be put in this position. But what's so weird about this is like Mehdi's asking questions from a universe where it's like we have a democracy that is like sort of, just like a functioning sort of, rational democracy. And Raffensperger's there. You can almost imagine that like in some type of complete or authoritarian world where it's like you cannot say anything against the leader. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's taking your family away and this, but you cannot say anything against the leader. Now, obviously, these are two extremes because we don't live in a functioning, a particularly functioning democracy, and we don't live in an area. But when those two meet, it is weird. It's almost like you feel like, did they edit this together? Like Mehdi was actually asking the questions of somebody in a different, parallel universe, and Raffensperger is answering his questions in a different. And it's not hard to imagine that we could end up moving all into Raffensperger's world on some level. I mean, it is creepy.
The whole Republican Party is in that world. We saw this in the Republican primary. Ted Cruz called his wife. Trump called his wife ugly. Said his dad killed JFK. Okay, fine. I'll go do phone banking for you. Mitt Romney came out and basically said this guy's a threat to our democracy and he's going to kill the Republican Party. Comes and Little Reek bends the knee essentially, and he had that's a Game of Thrones reference.
I knew it.
Yeah, and he had that dinner with him and was begging for Secretary of State, and Trump got off on not giving it to him. Like, you talk about an authoritarian regime, on a micro level, there's an authoritarian party in this country, and they show that, like, in their interpersonal relationships, it mirrors what they want for society.
I guess it's more disturbing for me just because, like, I can understand Ted Cruz is out there because he doesn't want to alienate Donald Trump's base because he's going to run for president again. But I don't feel like Raffensperger is going to run for president. You'd think that, like, he'd solidified his support in Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, I'm running for city council and I can't say anything wrong about the leader of the titular head of the party.
That's maybe where it makes most of the difference, though, right?
It's authoritarian conditioning.
They just they'll know of the guy. They won't know much about Raffensperger in Georgia, but if he's being primaried, they'll know that's the guy that right. So he's being primaried. They will identify him as that's the guy that isn't with Trump, that helped steal the election.
He's being primaried by Jody Heiss, who's like a real Freedom Caucus psycho, based fully on like the 2020 stuff.
There you go. Wow, that was just.
Maddie's
That was impressive.
Awesome, yeah.
All right, like I say, like I don't know how he gets any guests.
It's just his bookers must be incredible. They must be like.
You know, it's going to be like this. Maddie's out tonight.
Yeah.
What's in it for Raffensperger? Like, we'll get on, like, frankly, like, we saw the numbers. It's not very highly watched MSNBC show, but for a clip that could really embarrass us. Like,
I don't understand it. I really don't. Maddie's not here tonight. You should come on.
It must be how, like, Sacha Baron Cohen gets to talk to people for the, Showtime Borat stuff. I mean,
HBO.
HBO. No, he's on Showtime now.
Is that right?
That new show is on Showtime. I forget What Is America or whatever. Oh. Yeah. But anyway, it's like I still never. I would love to know a little bit more about the behind the scenes of stuff like that. How they're able to finagle some of these interviews. I mean, he was able to interview Bernie on that first episode there, and plus a bunch of crazy right wingers.
Well, you could get Bernie's going to go on.
No, I get it. No, I know.
That's since we're in the neighborhood. I mean. I got a text from somebody about Chris Christie yesterday, buddy of mine. He's not. I mean, he follows politics, but he's not. He's not knee deep in politics. And he's like, "What the f is going on with Chris Christie? Why is he on every single network? They're doing like a documentary, like a Profiles in Courage on him, and on CNN. He's on Meet the Press. He's on ABC. He's on." Fox and MSNBC, and honestly, A, I will stipulate that I have no idea, but B, it's like, I don't know if like Ken Langone went to all the network heads and said like, I've got, I'm going to drop 100 Home Depot commercials on you, except for I really want to see Chris Christie on there. I mean, some billionaire is bankrolling something that is getting Chris Christie on all of these things. It's not because people are like, well, there's so much pent-up demand for Chris Christie's book. We've all been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who for the past 4 years, he was doing like, AM talk radio, sports radio. Like, if this guy was in such demand, we would have seen him. He would have gotten a show somewhere or something.
And he left New Jersey's governorship with, what, a 20% approval rating? It might even have been lower.
Somebody is out there priming the pump because they want to try and use Chris Christie as some type of like, battering ram against Donald Trump. And I've got some news for folks. That ain't going to cut it. I don't know if it's like he's going to join the Lincoln Project or what.
He was on The Daily Show yesterday.
He's everywhere. And why? First off, like yesterday we talked about the idea of like birtherism. he was complaining that the Republican Party has become about birtherism. That happened 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
That's how Donald Trump launched his campaign, and that's why you knew that when you endorsed him.
Endorsed him and freaking brought him lunch every day. Are you kidding me?
Do you need anything, Mr. Trump?
Did I put enough ketchup in there, boss? Like, he's like that dude in the Pope of Greenwich Village who's like, they took my thumb. They took my thumb.
Yeah, but okay, that. But I don't get it.
No.
But so this is the guy that's going to oppose Trump?
Well, this is the guy apparently that somebody has decided is going to go out. Let's watch him on MSNBC. Now, this is hilarious. He's getting roughed up by Nicole Wallace of all people.
That shows how paper thin this is.
Ugh.
You take on the media, and I'm in the media, so I read that section carefully. But you know, the book is called, it's about conspiracies and lies, and you really don't take on Fox News. Why not?
Look, because the book was...
Tucker Carlson
because the book, no, I don't watch it, but the book...
Are you aware of what he does?
Not really. I don't pay a lot of attention to it.
It's a book with truth deniers, conspiracy theorists.
Pause it. The guy's written a book. Let's just be clear. On conservative conspiracy theories and all this, and the media not aware of what the highest rated show maybe in the history of cable news, not just at the moment, in the history. I'm not aware. I don't pay attention to that. You didn't have to pay attention to that when you wrote that book?
Convenient.
That's weird.
That
is weird. That is super, super weird. Nicole Wallace seems to have stumbled on something that Chris Christie is a freaking liar.
I mean, the selective blindness of this is when the Republicans were like, did you see what Trump tweeted? Like, no, I didn't see what he tweeted. But
I was unaware of that.
If Ilhan tweets one thing, one word incorrectly, everybody will know about it 5 minutes later.
I didn't see what Donald Trump tweeted. I didn't know what Tucker Carlson did. But did you see what the Oberlin student newspaper led with this week? It is out of control, cancel culture.
It's like they got coached up before going on the stand, where they just have to say, I do not recall. I do not recall.
It's all right, but let's continue here. I mean, he must have thought like, I thought I was going on to Joe Scarborough and I was going to just get like the full on lick down.
I thought I was going on to Nicole Wallace's show, and she's kind of what I want to be, right? Like, her entire history in the Republican Party and propping up Sarah Palin is totally whitewashed, and now she's able to make a ton of money on MSNBC. Maybe that can be me, and this will be a friendly interview. Maybe not so much.
That's right. Yeah. She is my, here we go.
You know, the book is called, it's about conspiracies and lies, and you really don't take on Fox News. Why not?
Look, because the book was...
Tucker Carlson
because the book, no, I don't watch it, but the book...
Are you aware of what he does?
Not really. I don't pay a lot of attention to it.
It's a book with truth deniers, conspiracy theorists on the cover, and you attack CNN and the New York Times and MSNBC and not Fox.
But excuse me, I don't attack them as conspiracy theorists or truth deniers. I talk about bias.
And is bias more dangerous to the country than conspiracy theorists?
No, but that's the third section of the book.
I read
where I talk about the movement forward. In the center portion of the book, we talk about the conspiracy theories and the truth denying that went on with things like QAnon, Pizzagate, the election situation, John Birch Society. And that's what I talk about. There's 2 sections of the book, and I'm sure accidentally you're conflating them.
I'm not conflating them, but I don't think I don't think it's an intellectually honest case to make against conspiracy theories without taking on Fox News.
Well, listen, then you can write that in your book.
Well, I'm not trying to rescue the Republican Party.
I understand. Well, whenever you want to write your next book,
I guess my question is, you want to run for president. What's your relationship with Fox News going to be?
Well, first of all, I didn't say I wanted to run for president. You said that. So let's be clear about that.
Well, a lot of people have said in the last 3 days you haven't corrected anybody.
Well, I understand that.
You're pretty quick to jump in and correct the record.
No, what I've said is that I certainly will think about it, but I won't make any decision for at least another year.
Do you think that Fox News in prime time is good for the country or bad?
Listen, there are shows that I like in Fox News, and there's shows that I don't like. Like there are shows that I like. Are you
afraid to question the purveyors of conspiracy theories and lies?
By the way, but that's your opinion. You're welcome to your opinion, like everybody else in this country is welcome to your opinion. I don't consider people like Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham purveyors.
I didn't say either of their names.
Well, you said the evening news programs at Fox News.
The 8 p.m. hour.
And as I told you, I don't don't watch the show, so I don't know what Tucker does from night to night. If I watch anything at night in news, because most of the time I'm watching sports, but if I'm watching anything in news, I'm usually watching either Sean or Laura.
So you may or may not support Donald Trump in 2024. You may or may not run for president.
So So 8 p.m. is Tucker Carlson's hour, right? And then he hands it off to Hannity, and then he hands it off to Ingram. He just never
I'm out and having dinner, so I don't start watching TV until 9 p.m. Oh, as if Sean Hannity, he never tried. No, he doesn't get involved in any conspiracies or anything like that. And Laura Ingram, God forbid. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
That was incredible how he fell into his own trap when he just listed Ingram and Hannity. It was so obvious.
I mean, you know, I'm not a fan of Nicole Wallace per se, but that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, but that
energy was great.
That's what gets her excited, though, right? Or eager to do aggressive questioning like that, because she feels like MSNBC is getting slighted
exactly.
So Christie's going after MSNBC and CNN, but you're not going to go after Fox News. Like it's an office dispute, and so that riles her up, right? It's
absolutely.
a career thing.
I will say this, that in my experience, they don't. None of these places. Well, people can infer about, because I have more experience with one or two of these places than others. They don't care about ideology. They care about like their brand.
Yeah.
And you know, don't besmirch
and they're competitors,
exactly.
Right?
But that was really enjoyable.
Christie, you are not accurately describing our competitors, and so I'm really angry about it, which accidentally leads to an incredible line of questioning. But let's not be under any
illusions.
Yeah, don't watch cable news. But I mean, finding avoidance there, like with Raffensperger or with Christie, there of just things they don't want to say is, I think, that's really good journalism.
Unbelievable.
Yes. And notice how he turns quickly to being a bully.
Oh yeah,
right.
Calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Oh, look
hey
at
guys, it's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, hello.
Is this me?
Yeah, it is you.
Oh, hey.
Hey, you know, I'm glad you called. Why don't we go through, well, why don't you say your piece, and then you can tell me the many, more than many, I can't remember what it was, things to critique me on, I think it was, you said, on Twitter?
Well, yeah, it just drives me nuts that these people keep whiffing on all the reasons why you suck.
Well, all right. Okay, fair enough. I can understand that frustration. Well, why don't you say your piece first, and then you can address my...
Okay. I want to talk about Christie, because this whole idea that like the Republicans are ready for like a serious politician reminds me of the local talk radio was playing a Trump speech on 9/11, and they cut away from it like midway through, and the local host was like, yeah, you know, Trump's not really at his best when he's doing this sort of thing. We kind of want him to be improvising, you know, just talking some shit, basically. There's really no appetite for like a guy who's going to stand up there and give, you know, a boring speech about the deficit or whatever. I don't think there's any appetite for that on the right. And it got me thinking a little bit about how during the primary, if you remember, like for a long time, nobody thought he had a chance. And during these debates, they all treated him with kid gloves.
Now, hold on for 1 second. Hold on for 1 second. Do you want to amend that? Nobody thought he had a chance?
You thought Scott Walker was going to win, so you didn't think he had a chance.
No. Prior to Trump, Scott Walker was out almost before Trump got in.
So anyways, the point is that the thought for a long time amongst people who are not as smart as you and I,
thank you,
was that these people were going to lay in the wake and take his supporters. So they wanted to sort of, you know, treat him with kid gloves. And it wasn't until later on that Marco Rubio tried to say he had a small dick or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always thought that, like, if what if Chris Christie had really gone after Trump early on? Like, that would have been the time to do it. Do you think that would have made any kind of difference? Or was he sort of just destined to take over this thing? I think they could have really, I think Christie would have been the one to do it, too.
I think you're right.
To make fun of him, to, belittle him and that sort of a thing. But none of them did it. They let him.
Well, first off, they were following the primary rubric and principle of conservative ideology, which is what is best for the individual is best for society. And they all were pursuing their own personal self-interest. And we saw the problem with that because it was all in their best interest not to alienate Trump's base. But yeah, I suspect that had they gone after him early, that it would have been a different story because it would have immediately sort of like given the press like the ability, even the right-wing press, to knock him out of the race.
And there was right-wing press that wanted to, like a lot of those
without a doubt, without a doubt. And you would have gotten stories like, is Donald Trump going to embarrass himself anymore? Boy, but they all laid off of him, and then he just gained momentum and became untouchable. But
just from a personality though, like, and I guess, delivery perspective, I think you're right with your instincts that he would have been able to go to toe with him in the kind of WWE style, I guess.
I don't think that would have been it, frankly, because the bottom line is the Republican Party had for years, even going back to George W. Bush, who was the CEO president, and just all the stories that Paul Ryan told about, brown bagging it and this and that. They had for decades built up a catechism, which is that if you're poor, you are unrighteous, and the inverse is if you're rich, you are the most righteous. And I think we were saying just like like the day that Donald Trump announced was like he's going to get on the debate and he's going to say, I'm a billionaire, you are not. Therefore, whatever I say automatically trumps you.
I'm not saying that it would have worked. I do think, though, maybe Christie could have elevated himself because stylistically it matches up a little bit more with what Republicans, they never knew they wanted, but that's what they want.
I think I don't even think it's so much that they go head to head. If they had one or two of them or three of them shown that they were not afraid or deferring to Trump, that in and of itself would have been the thing, because he was not strong enough at that point to deal with the sort of surrounding narrative that would have been developed that nobody's afraid of him. Yeah. But the point is they came in so late by the time it happened that everybody knew they were afraid of him already. Everybody knew that they were afraid of the Republican base. And
is Chris Christie on your Mount Rushmore of Trump cucks?
I mean, who's bigger?
No, Romney and Ted Cruz.
I guess, but Ted Cruz,
Mike Pence, and Little Marco. That's the Mount Rushmore.
Well, Mike Pence, though.
No, Lindsey Graham. Sorry, yes.
Lindsey Graham is up there, but let's be clear. I mean, nobody served as a personal valet more than Chris Christie. So it really depends. Like, okay, Ted Cruz did a 180, but he just threw his wife under the bus, right? Like, I mean,
are you kidding me? That image of Ted Cruz phone baking for him, that would be on the Mount Rushmore of Trump cucks.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear. There's 5 images, right, on Mount Rushmore?
No, 4. 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore.
4, yeah. Roosevelt, Washington.
Whatever. I think we should give it back.
Who knows? Yeah, we should.
I'm including Trump's picture on this.
Yeah.
Where he's just like punching the beach in the face.
But I think, honestly, is not Chris Christie the greatest Trump cuck?
No, it's definitely Cruz, but okay.
He was the first. Well, Cruz, because you have the wife angle, which really...
Well, I guess. If you're going to be really specific to the...
And because Cruz and him... Cruz, like... Cruz went down swinging, or Cruz was the last one, so he was the last man standing to be humiliated for the longest period of time.
Look at this. Ronald Reagan jumped off the phone already. He must have gotten a call from a client. Or he's just going to drop that and run away. Classic. He didn't want to be held to account for that tweet that he tweeted out.
You're not serious about the Mount Rushmore methodology if you don't include Lindsey Graham and
No, I agree with
Ted
Lindsey
Cruz.
Graham and Ted Cruz. No, I think they're there. I just think that, like,
In
Christie,
the draft, you're going to take Chris Christie first?
I mean, the guy was like his personal valet.
Okay.
And he did get COVID from him. Or
Honestly, like. Yeah, let's play this Anderson Cooper clip since Chris Christie's doing this parade. Excuse me. Let's. Which one are you talking about? Number 4? Number 8. Okay, number 8. Yeah, I mean, since Chris Christie's doing this parade, here is. I wanted to say, like, how did he show up on all of these networks almost at the same time? But there's enough of Chris Christie to go around. Let's put it that way.
Woo!
Sorry about that, folks. Here is Chris Christie on his... I don't even know what the F is going on with him on all these things, these networks. But whatever it is, maybe some billionaire is just buying a lot of ad time. But here he is with Anderson Cooper as we discuss... Is Chris Christie the biggest cuck to Donald Trump? And I would argue he is because of him being the personal valet. But go ahead.
It's Cruz.
Not only a strong leader, but by a caring, genuine, and decent person. Do you believe that now?
Well, look, I think what I said there, I absolutely believe that he was our strongest option that was left when I said those things. And the fact is that, again, you're left with the choices you have. But now what I'm saying to folks...
Do you believe that he was caring, genuine, and a decent person?
Let me tell you something. When I said those things, he had always been that to me. Mm-hmm. He had always been that to me at that time.
Do you believe that now?
Well, he's been less of that to me over the course of time, but I still consider him a friend. We've been friends for 20 years.
Do you think he has been decent? Do you think he's been genuine, caring? I mean, I think when you were in the hospital... He called you up and he was saying something about, like, you're not going to say you got it from me, are you?
Right. But in the beginning of that conversation, for the whole conversation, he did ask how I was doing. But the fact is,
are you going to die? Are you going to die? Because if you're going to die, this is going to look really bad for me.
Could you, like, go out and do a photo op and just walk around, make sure people don't think you're too sick? Come on.
Okay, listen, if you're going to die, let's go over who you probably got this from and who you didn't get it from.
Say you got it from Hillary.
Right? Say you get Should we lock her up? What about your wife? Does your wife have COVID? Can you say you got it from her? What about your kids? Okay. I just want to make sure that
you're not going to embarrass me.
Dying would be super weak. Just want you to know that.
Not a great time right now, Chris.
Want to remind you, I came through it no problem. So you ask why you never got hired? This is why. Don't be so weak.
Don't you dare blame me for your death.
All right, go back. This is just, my God. How humiliating. Incidentally, no one's going to buy your book.
Time, but I still consider him a friend. We've been friends for 20 years.
Do you think he has been decent? Do you think he's been genuine, caring? I mean, I think when you were in the hospital, he called you up and he was saying something about, like, you're not going to say you got it from me, are you?
Right. But in the beginning of that conversation, for the whole conversation, he did ask how I was doing. But the fact is, Anderson, that.
Chris, I know you're in a lot of pain right now, but can you just sign this piece of paper saying you got COVID from the Democrats and definitely not me?
So this is how the call goes. How you doing? I'm okay, but you're not going to die. Also, I just want to remind you, according to my lawyer, your NDA is still in effect. So you did not get it from me, right? Otherwise, we sue you. How are you doing now? It just keeps checking in during the course of the conversation. I'm great. I didn't get COVID from you. Oh, so it sounds like you're doing well. Okay, good.
Well, yeah, because my COVID wasn't even that bad, so.
Basically like a flu.
I mean, I got over my COVID, so if you die, probably a different COVID.
Definitely different COVID.
Couldn't be the same, because mine didn't kill me, and yours killed you.
It only killed you because you are not in the most amazing shape that I'm in.
You should go out and tell people you wish you got COVID from me, so you didn't get it from somebody who got the worst one.
You would have gotten the better COVID, where you're actually feeling better than you did before.
Where I fought it halfway for you before giving it to you.
I felt, after my COVID, I felt better than I ever had. So if you're feeling worse, probably different COVID.
You probably did not get the presidential COVID, Trump COVID.
And if you did get my COVID, you're welcome.
Like antibodies.
My God.
So he's running for president then, or he's trying to see if there's an appetite for it.
Somebody wants him to.
Or here's my theory. He is about to promote a new crypto that actually is generated by humiliation.
Oh, yeah.
So he's going out there, and every time he goes on to one of these shows and he humiliates himself, it's fueling the processing power to create value in his crypto.
Yeah, that's a lot more environmentally sound than traditional crypto. So I appreciate Christie being, sustainable there. But the thing about him running, I just want to point this out, like, if there is a billionaire bankrolling it, which I think you're actually right about that.
It's got to be.
It's got to be. They want Trump aesthetics without it being Trump. So Chris Christie can do Jersey Tough Talk cosplay, and so that's what they think the value is. And that, like, it's
without a doubt,
the contempt for the people that are voting for him. It's just seeps through all of these like financed efforts.
Well, there's just stupid theory that is not certainly not that is in no way a function of party, because that's why you get all these like people who think like the Lincoln Project has so much value, that what you need to take care of Donald Trump is somebody who's going to be like out-barb him in some way, and it's just the stupidest.
People don't know why Trump was. First of all, he could win GOP freaks better than as well as any of those primary folks. But he's also a fixture of public culture, like a short, like synonymous with a rich guy.
Yeah.
Right? He's all over culture. He's into rap, like right. Like you listen to a rap lyric from like 2003, and there's a chance like Trump might be mentioned.
There's a Mac Miller song before he ran called Donald Trump, where he talk about how much money he makes.
That's the problem, is that there is too much about Donald Trump that is vulnerable, that most of these politicians, they can't attack. I mean, let's be clear, right? What was Joe Biden, regardless of what his ideology is, what was his profile?
Obama's VP.
Yeah.
I mean, not just that, but in terms of like himself, like what was his profile?
Washington.
That was for us. For the American public, it was, Amtrak Joe.
Yeah.
It was working class union guy Joe. I mean, his record didn't reflect that, but that was his regular guy Joe. And, he was saying like, Main Street instead of Wall Street. And, did he believe that? And did he say that behind closed doors? No. But the point is that was the perception that I think there was out there. He was not, rightly or wrongly, he was not perceived as like a sop to the wealthy. I would argue that his record belied that. But that's you attack Donald Trump by attacking wealth. And nobody in the Republican Party can do that.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. And that's, my point is like, he's a billionaire. He's up there. Whatever he says trumps whatever they say, because he is richer than them. And, when Hillary Clinton went around and said, things aren't that bad and she's not going to attack, she couldn't attack Goldman Sachs. I mean, look at Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe could not exercise the primary attack that one would have launched against Youngkin if you were anybody but someone who was working at the same frickin' Carlyle group. Was it Carlyle group? Youngkin was a predatory, what did they call it? What did Newt Gingrich call it when he went after Romney? Was it vulture capitalism?
Oh.
Youngkin was a vulture capitalist. If you wanted to go in and attack Youngkin, Like the idea that you did not have that arrow in your quiver. I got the arrow that has the, the sort of like the iron tip or whatever it is.
Yeah, the car elevator arrow.
Yeah, I can't use that one because I'm that guy too. Never. I don't think people voted against Terry McAuliffe because of that. But like, you can't take 1/3, 1/2, 1/4, whatever you want to measure it, of your arsenal that you would use against this guy and take it off the table because you're just as guilty. That's a problem.
Well, and that's the same reason why Bernie would have won in 2016, right? Because Hillary Clinton was unable to.
I mean,
I understand it's a counterfactual, but
if it was just up to the people, I think he would have. But I
gotta be honest
the
with
Democratic Party running somebody like.
I think. My whole point was I thought that what's his face.
Oh yeah, the O'Malley.
O'Malley would have won. I think O'Malley would have won too. Not just Bernie.
Like Lincoln, they like fetishize that he was born in a log cabin. Like this is as old as politics, right?
Yep. So,
what was William Henry Harrison? What was the deal with him? Remember that? That was like the original campaign where it's like he was from. No, nobody can remember. Somebody in the chat will remind me.
I mean, of course. Like that always trumps. No pun intended. No pun intended. But
speaking of nominative determinism.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Nominative determinism. Somebody's like throwing around their doctorate a little bit. Are you a PhD?
No, master's.
Well, nevertheless. Around here you are.
Yeah.
What else we should do this? Oh yeah,
she's so bad at this.
Let's just do this one more time. What do you think is going on here, Matt? Like you sort of follow this, like sort of like is she like waning? Is her value waning when are they running out of gas with this wokeism stuff?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I thought she'd be waning by now, and I don't think she is super waning.
Maybe
they run out of gas. Who knows?
I promise you, when something that will never happen, I will do this. Is the formula here? Listen. When we ultimately get to Fiji for our live Majority Report broadcast, I'm going to promise you this. The guests that we're going to have on there are going to put like the Oscars to shame. And the
hotel rooms we'll be staying in will be immaculate. We're putting up every one of you in a private Fiji hotel
When we
suite.
do our Fiji Majority Report live, every one of you is going to be in the presidential Fijian hotel suite. Here is Candace Owens promising what she's going to do when she's president.
If I ever do it, if I ever decide that I am going to run for president, if I ever actually make it all the way.
Clip right there. I mean, do we really need to see any more of that clip? I mean, that is what the.
So the Daily Wire is giving her a daytime talk show format.
Is that what it is?
I mean, that's what it's like. That's like a Wendy Williams crowd. That's like an Ellen DeGeneres crowd.
This is kind of glass houses, Sam. The way you talk about running against Chuck Schumer, but
I guess that's true.
The way we applaud.
It's true. It's true. Also, I love that tight shot. I wonder if there's more than 9 people in that studio.
Yes, very tight shot.
But all right, let's keep playing. Let's start it over again because that was sort of like almost so shocking that it was like I lost track of.
I mean, and the idea that of all the right-wing pundits, they want to make her the one that runs for president, it's just so cynical. Just because she's a black woman. She is not good at this. She's not a good right-wing pundit. She doesn't have anything new to say, but keep going.
If I ever do it, if I ever decide that I am going to run for president, if I ever actually make it all the way. If I ever actually make it all the way to the White House, I promise you all, I will do everything within my constitutional power to make these people pay. Every politician, every judge, every lying media member who has taken part in the narrative that January 6th was like 9/11. I'm going to make them pay, and I'm going to make them pay for treason. We all know.
Let's just be clear that she does not have, as President Owens, when presumably, when she becomes president, she becomes eligible to run and then runs and wins, presumably from that position, she's going to run just after she has hosted that show. You cannot charge people for contributing to a narrative as president. I just wanted to make that clear.
That's interesting too.
Unless she has the ability
I thought
to
they were
change
the free speech people, right? You're going to charge people for claiming something's worse than 9/11.
I would say that precedent might be worrying to people who have been contributing to anti-vax bullshit. But
yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, but when she comes in, she's also going to ride a tide of the plebiscite on the amending the Constitution to give the president powers to charge people with treason who contribute to a narrative she doesn't like.
Man, that's going to be a very fun prison we're all in.
Exactly. In fact,
although
maybe
we didn't say the 9/11 stuff. That was just corny Democrats.
I think we're going to fall into
look
her
at Emma
trap,
trying to build her defense.
Yeah,
Candace, please do not lock us up. Lock us up for all the other things we say.
All right, let's play this. This is great. I expect her next up. We're going to have Ben Shapiro's wife here to show us how to make a great salad dish that you can make at home with chickpeas. Okay.
Yes, a salad dish that distracts from your terrible sex life.
I'm going to make them pay, and I'm going to make them pay for treason. We all know. $25. We all know what January 6th was. For the most part, it was a warning shot fired to patriots from the communists that are fighting to take over our country. It was an attempt which involved participation and aggravation.
Pause it. You don't have to take it off the screen. Keep it up on the screen. But it was a warning shot fired to patriots from communists? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Go back. Because are we supposed to be warned, or did we send the warning shot?
That's a good question.
We all know what January 6th was. For the most part, it was a warning shot fired to patriots from the communists that are fighting to take over our country.
Two patriots from the communists. Okay, pause it again. I'm sorry.
And aggregate.
So she's you can keep it up, Bradley. I think she's trying to build the narrative that there was a false flag.
What? Really?
It was a warning shot from, Tucker Carlson's claiming it's a false flag, but without saying it so much regularly.
FBI incited it or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
FBI, the communist. The communist FBI.
Right,
okay.
obviously.
No, that makes more
sense.
sense.
What year that
communist
happened.
intersectional FBI.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Where can I vote for that?
I'm the Fox Mulder of the communist FBI.
Fired to patriots from the communists that are fighting to take over our country. It was an attempt which involved participation and aggravation from the highest levels of the United States government in coordination with big tech and the corporate media to criminalize patriotism, to make patriotism a dirty word, to break the spirit of Americanism.
Wait,
when we think about
I'm sorry.
This is
so to criminalize patriotism and make it a dirty word. So criminalizing words, that would be wrong, right? Meanwhile, if you compare January 6th to 9/11, I'm going to try you for treason.
There were words she did say that I agree with when it says it's aggravation from the highest levels of government. Yeah, the president saying the election was stolen. That's what actually happened.
I'm trying to I am really honestly trying to place myself in the mindset of the people sitting in the audience and trying to figure out if they can understand what she's saying. I can't even
what do they think she wants them to think?
Yeah, exactly. It was a warning shot from the communists to the patriots on January 6th because of the aggravation from the highest levels of government. But that's Trump. Why would Trump be...
No, he's not. It's the deep state. They are higher than Trump. Even though I thought Donald Trump was supposed to go in there and fight.
Is that what she's saying? Honestly, like
yes, that the communist. How are you not following this? The communist FBI and the deep state worked, and big tech all worked together with the people that hate the patriots to stage the false flag January 6th operation in order to take over the country.
Because what you can't say is it was right that those people went and stormed the Capitol because the election was stolen. Like, which is what she really, like, that's the message that she's sending in there.
But she's got to figure out a little bit. Like, I mean, I like the way that she starts it off by going, like, we all know what that was. And now I'm going to say something that's almost completely incomprehensible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can't even, I don't care how deep you're in this, you will not be able to follow to what I'm saying. There's just, I mean, like, there's no, like, I'm not even questioning her theory. I just don't even understand what she's talking about. It's like one of those Escher paintings where it's like, it just sort of like flipping back in. Wait, am I looking at the stairs or no? Wait a second. That doesn't, I can't walk through those.
And everyone in the audience, like, doesn't even know what they're clapping for. They all just have, all have long COVID. Well, so they just don't know where they're at.
We should back up a little bit because I appreciate that they include those audience shots because I think it's demystifying a little bit.
Exactly. I also would love to see if they had like a slow dolly tracking shot as she's saying that part, just so that we could see the looks, like how, like the intensity of how they're trying to figure out, wait, what is she got the aggravator? All right, go ahead. Yeah, put it back. Let's go see them.
We all know what January 6th was. For the most part, it was a warning shot fired to patriots from the communists that are fighting to take over our country. It was an attempt which involved participation and aggravation from the highest levels of the United States government in coordination with big tech and the corporate media to criminalize patriotism, to make patriotism a dirty word, to break the spirit of Americanism. When we think about veterans, we tend to think about the people who fought wars overseas and came home, but the people and the evil ideologies that we have to stand up to today, they're not overseas. They're right here.
We're the
on
veterans.
our soil, which means that in a way, we all have an opportunity to become a United States veteran.
Oh my God.
Let's do that by screaming the truth as loudly and as often as they scream the lie. Ready? I'll go first. January 6th was not an insurrection.
That wasn't a scream.
Yeah. I got excited. I thought she was going to
I did
yell.
too. Like, can you get, does that disqualify her from a Purple Heart because she didn't scream it?
Is that what
I would imagine, listen, I wonder if I'm sitting at home and I'm sitting in that audience and I'm like, I'm a veteran. And you're telling me that you get to be a veteran too if you say January 6th was not an insurrection? That's all you got to do? Do you get the VA benefits now for that? Because I probably would have rather not gone over to Iraq or Afghanistan or to Vietnam or to Korea or any of those places to become a veteran if you just get to do it by saying January 6th was not an insurrection.
Yeah.
Looking across Applebee's, like, hey, did you get your discount on that fettuccine Alfredo like I did?
Right, exactly. You're not eligible for that USAA insurance now, are you? Because
I'm going to go straight to Army surplus after this.
I understand what she's saying now. She was saying it was a false flag. Mm-hmm. She was saying that there were elements of the U.S. government that were not Donald Trump who were instigating the attack just to besmirch the word patriots.
But
they're all dupes.
He's simultaneously the strongest leader on planet Earth and also just like completely unable to stand up to the deep state.
But I don't understand, like, this is the way the logic breaks down. Like, if the election was stolen from Trump, why would it be bad what those people did on January 6th?
No,
that's the point, though. She doesn't.
Well, that's the thing. They have to deny the stolen election, and then they. That's the aggravation part.
No, because they want the reason that it was bad, that it was a false flag that the communists staged this January 6th thing, is because they wanted to make
Trump look bad?
the Patriots look
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
And that like
Well, they didn't stage it. They didn't stage it. They lured those Patriots into
like cattle.
It was like a honeypot.
You know
it was like a honeypot. And they lured them in and to make them look bad.
Yeah, as if they all thought that
They were actually Patriots, but they lured them in to make them look bad.
Like cattle at a feedlot.
Forced us to do this. That like her what she gave there was sort of like, you remember? You guys ever see Animal House? Did you see that movie? Okay, yeah. You remember when Belushi was like, "Was it over when the Germans attacked Pearl Harbor?" And everybody's like, he's on a roll. They had that type of energy where people are just like, yay, we're here. I wonder how many family members are there. I'll tell you though, you look at that and you really are like, whoa, Candace Owens, this is working. It's like a black exit or whatever it is that they were running on.
The thing is like I have come across certain people who are like, look, I have this black family member who like is sucked into this. How do I counter that? We've had callers on the show actually about this. So like I think like that's how I was poo-pooing Candace Owens for like the first 3 or 4 years, but she's actually getting some traction. And I mean, not that audience shows that in any way at all.
Right. I think that is true. I mean, it's sort of inevitable, isn't it, on some level? Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, it's inevitable. I mean, you're gonna...
People want somebody to zag.
I mean, I would imagine even Ben Shapiro probably has some salience with...
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. All right. All right. We have time for one more phone call. And let's see. We got a lot of people hanging on the phone, so I'm going to just take a random one that's in the 70 minutes range of hanging on to the phone call. So, bingo. Calling from a 936 area code. You. The final caller of the day.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Emma. Jeremy from Texas, living in California.
Jeremy from Texas, usually in California? Is that what you said?
Living in California currently.
All right, Jeremy from Texas, living in California. I appreciate the context.
I don't know if I can handle the pressure of being the last call, but I just want to say I'm a big fan. Emma, I actually followed you over from TYT to here, even though Sam was a little bit boring.
Well, Emma missed that, unfortunately, but I will definitely tell her that, Emma's going to come back. She cannot resist the idea of you insulting me and crediting her.
Well, is someone talking about me? Hold on.
Oh, I had no idea.
I was going to go to the restroom really quickly, but I'm back. Hello.
Hi, Emma. I just want to say I'm a big fan. Followed you over from TYT.
Oh, thank
even
you.
though
So
Sam's
worth it
show
to
is
come
a little
back
bit...
for that. It feeds my ego. I really appreciate it.
Even though what? You did miss this part. Go ahead. Even though
Sam's a little bit boring at times, I enjoy the content of the show these days.
All right, fair enough. Now Emma can go, and Emma can go and relieve herself.
Yes, Jesus.
Well, you said go to the bathroom. It wasn't like you were going into primp.
Bye.
No.
Oh, geez.
I thought today's show was pretty interesting with the insect apocalypse.
Yep. Thanks.
I'm actually, I guess I'm technically what you would consider a little bit of a prepper. I just bought 10 acres over in Tennessee, and I'm curious why we don't see very much of the whole prepper mentality on the left. And if you guys had any thoughts on that.
I'm going to cop to having a little bit of that. I have a feeling there's some of that. I have a theory about, like Gen Xers having a little bit of a prepper mentality because we grew up with like the millennium sort of so prominent, when you
the Y2K thing?
Well, not just Y2K, just the concept of the millennium. There is some like academic writing about what happens, like weird stuff happening around millenniums in terms of the psychology, right? Because it's just like, it's on some level, it's human nature to think like, whoa, this is we're getting, the millennium, something big could possibly happen there. I mean, I think that's what Y2K was. There was that fear that was just sort of a little bit more rationally based. But, there's a site called The Prepped. Is that what it is? The Prepared, John Stokes, I think it is. Will you just Google that? Was it Stokes? What is it called? The Prepared. Have you ever seen that site?
No, I can't say I have. I mostly avoid the prepper culture.
Yeah, no, this is for you.
Like right wing.
This is for you. It's called The Prepared. To the extent that there's any sort of ideological bent, it's left leaning without a doubt.
Really?
Yep. And I mean, it doesn't get too into it, but it's actually a site that I read with some regularity. It is why I had bought a bunch of toilet paper and paper towels in February and a little bit of food at that time in 2020. But you're right. I think it's not there because I think to a large extent that vision, the idea that we have to be individually responsible for the failure of something that government and society should be providing for at this point. I think that's where there's a little bit of jam up. Okay, power is going to go out. Well, why is the power going out? Because we have not made an investment into the grid and we do not have sustainable energy. There's going to be food shortages. Why? Because we have monopolistic practices that have made our supply lines highly dependent on one. We've literally put all our eggs into one basket. And these are all of the problems for the vast majority. Let's put it this way: the vast majority of problems that we. For which you should prepare for, really should be prepared for by society. And I think there is a feeling, and I don't know that it's wrong, that if we spend too much time preparing as an individual for these things, we take the pressure off society to address them. That's my theory.
I can see that. I always wish society would deal with systemic problems, but we never seem to. So it always gives me a lot of anxiety thinking about, what we're going to see in the coming decades, because, you kind of touched on it. History is kind of cyclical. And if you look what happened in the 20s and the 30s, it's just got me real nervous about the future. And I just wonder sometimes why there aren't more leftists in the sort of prepper space, because it seems to be overrun by right-wing wackos and crazies.
I would say part of it is a bit cost prohibitive, especially like buying land to do prepper stuff on. I would theoretically love to do that, but you got to pay rent.
I've gotten really lucky. I bought real estate here in California when I came over here, and it's increased in value 66% in the last 3 years. So I'm going to be selling this place and then buying. I've already purchased land in Tennessee, so I've gotten really fortunate. I understand that most people don't have that sort of financial power.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that it's good to, have a go bag, as it were. And I think it's, it's nice to have some self sustenance. But, the bottom line is use some of that anxiety and energy into fighting for more comprehensive change in our society, because at the end of the day, that's the best preparation. I mean, look, if whatever the scenario I think it's good to be prepared for, we could have COVID. So, maybe it's good to have
our grid is underprepared.
Yeah. Maybe it's good to, if you live, in a place where you might lose power, to have some type of generator. I mean, even in the city I grew up in, it's the second biggest city in New England, and they were out of power a couple of years ago for 2 or 3 weeks. And so, getting a solar generator, let's say, is probably not a bad idea if you know that there's, so that you can put it outside and then bring it inside to operate certain things. But like full on prep stuff for like a societal collapse, to me, that's a fool's errand, because it may be sort of romantic to contemplate, but that's going to suck. And so, rather than like getting the 70, 50-gallon jugs to store your water, spend your effort on like organizing in mutual aid society, mutual aid groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a big like prepper fiction like kind of novels and stuff, and they always romanticize like a society collapse, and like you're gonna have like 3 chicks for every guy, and it's really, really bizarre fictional writing. And I tried to read some of it. I'm like, yeah, this is not how it's going to go down. If it does go down, and I'm hopeful that it won't. But
so wait, what's happening in this prepper fantasy? There's going to be 3 women for every guy. What? Like, how did that work out?
It's super bizarre. It's always like an EMP or a nuclear or something, and like all the technology's destroyed, and people have to depend on the men who know how to get stuff done. It's really bizarre fantasy writing, because that's what it is. It's a fantasy writing, kind of like wish fulfillment kind of thing.
I think that animates a lot of the stuff on the left, right? I mean, that's what Kyle Rittenhouse, when he goes down with that,
on the left.
Oh, no. Did I say on the left?
Yeah.
No, on the right.
Yeah.
On the right. Well, when Kyle Rittenhouse grabs that gun and goes down there, he thinks he's I don't know, whatever.
Rambo.
Character.
He's reclaiming his man.
Yeah, it's Rambo, or I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's it could be.
Well, they say it all the time. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and so they want to be that good guy desperately.
Right.
It reminds me of just really quickly, the scene in Mad Men where Pete buys the gun after like his, he feels like cucked by his wife, or he's married and whatever, just to kind of reclaim his. He returns the chip and dip for the gun. That's what that reminded me of. But anyway.
All right, appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Sam. Emma.
Yep.
And that is the phone call-in portion of our program. And now on to the IM wrap things up
portion of the program.
Indeed. Jimmy Files. I already read that one. Rob from Dedham. PFAS has severely impacted the water in Hyannis, Massachusetts. It's a constant debate and blame game, town versus county. And they now have spent millions on water filtration, but from learning more about them, part of the issue with PFAS is that the chemical companies are not or were not required to disclose the chemical compounds for specific PFAS, so it inherently will always be more PFAS than are even able to be tested for. I have no doubt these chemicals contributed to my brother's death of lymphoma in 2017 at the age of 21. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm so sorry.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu signed an appropriation order for $8 million to make 3 bus lines in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan free for all for 2 years. That's awesome.
Vinny, we see you're writing in John Wick. Yes. You said to Vinny.
Yeah.
Vinny said to like
John Wick, exactly. I was trying to come up with I want to say Bruce Willis, but 17-year-old is not, dreaming of being Bruce Willis at this point.
Yeah, I guess John Wick's the new
guy. This point that Rob from Dedham makes, people don't fully understand this. It was an issue with with fracking fluid as well. You don't test water and then there's no test for water where everything that is a foreign material pops up. Yeah. That's not the way that you test. And I don't think most people fully grasp this. You need to know what you're looking for and then essentially the test proves that it's not there or that it's there. There's no test that tells you what's in the water. You need to be testing for stuff in the water. And so if there's something in there that you don't know what the compound is, you can't test for it because you don't know to look for it. Yeah. And that is the problem with all these things. Sam Seder, sexy supporter. Sam, great job on This Is Revolution podcast. Some Door fans made it into the comments and started to smear you, saying you were anti-Palestine and pro-Israel. That's pretty good. Anti-Semitic Door supporter, shocking. Also, it seems that there's some crossover between Brianna Joy Gray fans and Door fans. That is also not surprising to me. Mirror Division. I just became a member yesterday. I appreciate the show immensely and hope you can use some of the money for Emma's Morning for Loco fund.
Yeah, that's a joke, but
I don't know what that means. But
Four Loko is an insane energy drink alcoholic beverage.
Oh, all right.
I thought those were outlawed.
J-Man Raps. Hey, guys, big win for the Rangers last night. Too bad they bound their first round sweep. Anyway, Rittenhouse trial confirms to me how many right-wingers will justify vigilante violence. I've had a couple arguments over different cases of vigilante violence with Trumpers about how actually murdering people is wrong, even if the person is guilty of a crime, is quite disturbing.
Yes, that was my first game back at Madison Square Garden in over 2 years.
Wait, you went to the Rangers game?
Yeah, and they won.
Oh. I don't know. I wanted to do WoW, but I couldn't find it.
Also, not just right wingers defending Kyle Rittenhouse. Jimmy Dore was doing it too. Somebody asked about the left doing it yesterday, and I was frankly unaware of how many people were dipping their toes in that pond.
It's just a fucking money grab. It's so fucking
It's
ridiculous.
Naked. The Boogaloo Boys.
Shane from Canada, Emma's signature is butchering, metaphor, analogy, etc. to derail a conversation. Like a bear in a china shop, but then finds it like some salmon. Oh, wait. Should be a bull in a china shop. Like a bull in a china shop. You know what the... Wait, what?
It's, I mean... That could be true.
A salmon in a bear in a china shop would be looking for salmon and also have the same impact that a bull would.
Whoa.
Maybe worse, actually, because a bull could theoretically just bump into stuff. A bear is just going to tear it apart. Solar Doula. Despite this guest status, as a father, he makes some strong points in favor of the antinatal...
Oh, God.
Clower. Not just insects. As a birder, I've noticed there seem to be a lot fewer birds than I remember there being. That is a function of the insects. He writes about that, actually.
And this is something that we've just missed. Like, if you knew American history, you'd know, like, obviously the buffalo, there's a famous, pyramid of skulls, but also just, like, passenger pigeons, I think, were here. Like, we have exterminated since we got here in a way that, like, there was abundance, just an absurd amount of animal life here, and, that's what happens.
Thank God for Emma's sake, he said almonds, not cashews. Fierce deity, not quite on topic, but my ornithology professor told us once that in the case of bird species who are endemic to only one island, they could be wiped out entirely by the presence of domestic cats. Gave us an example of an island where a lighthouse was built, and it's hypothesized that native bird species went extinct simply because the lighthouse keeper had a pet cat. Just an example of how harmful introduced species can be. Prayer Fire Kowalski. Sam, Emma, MR crew. It's nice to see you mention the forever chemicals and talk about the insect apocalypse. I don't like being the only person talking about the existential crisis facing humanity. You see, when talking about the insect apocalypse, that my motivation to build greenhouses to separate much of our crops that usually require insecticides, you could just shut the screen door. Insects are safe, workers are safe, would use less water, and herbicides. Then moving to grow indigenous plants to harvest for its carbon, which 95% of the dry plant matter is carbon from the air, would provide habitats for animals, both big visible ones like bison and elk, as well as small like worms and butterflies, using that biomass as the foundation to expand our coastal wetlands to sequester carbon, purify river water as it enters the ocean's environments while having a habitat that acts as a storm surge at the wall. Stay hopeful, leftist poggers.
Was that Kowalski?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I should put him in charge of something.
That's similar to what we talked about, patreon.com/leftreckoning, the most recent Patreon episode.
Aaron is not cool. Looking back, I think Apocalypse Appreciation Month didn't go over as intended. Germaclean, it's been cold and rainy for months in London, but now I feel better and not cutting the lawn in my backyard. Thanks. All right, 5 more. Special occasions. Was that a hint? Oh, I already read that one, so I'll do 5 more. Poor Leo from Omaha. Poor Cleo. I don't know. The insects won't die out because we'll have to eat them eventually for food eventually.
I don't.
Hubdub. All rental leases in California built before 1992 require a lead paint waiver. It does not mean there is lead paint in the place, just that there could be. Here come the anti-catalysts. Alexandra's okay board. Oh, wow. This is too much. Not sure if it's been mentioned on the show, but the San Antonio Symphony Orchestra has been on strike since September 27th. Because of COVID, the musicians had to agree to an 80% pay cut for the 2021 season. Well, I'll look into that. Will you make a note of that, Bradley? Bourbon Socialist. For leftists interested in survival and prepping type content, Bo the Fifth Column has videos on his channel about that stuff. He normally does political commentary, but also talks about survival and emergency preparedness, particularly worth checking out. Plenty of MR viewers would probably like his politics. I think I've seen a couple of his videos. René Amanil, Trump to Christie. Chris, are you dying? You know, you already sit through the words, longest funeral when John McCain died. District Jabroni. When Candace Owens wins the presidency, she's going to have her face added to her favorite U.S. landmark, Mount Everest. I've been fighting the war on Christmas for decades now. Am I a veteran too? And the final I am of the day. I haven't been able to listen to the show because of flooding and power outages in Washington State. Sorry if you already addressed this. Why is Glenn Greenwald obsessed with you? And why is he now defending Kyle Rittenhouse? Yeesh. Marketing?
Money.
Substack can only grow via Twitter. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Matt, Bradley, Emma, great job today. Emma's back here tomorrow. I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my